Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Pink Pill. I am your host, Jamie Lynn, and I have a really special episode planned for you guys today. I'm here with some beautiful women. We have a panel of women, ladies. Some of them you will recognize. I'm here with Jamie Villamore. Jamie.
Hello.
And then one of my good girlfriends, her name is Jessica Lynn. So we've got a Jamie Lynn and a Jessica Lynn today.
Hi.
And today we're just going to kind of wing it, actually. I had kind of like I wanted to do like some OnlyFans discussions today, but I think I might save that for another day. So Instagram has been something that I think is a hot topic, especially when it comes to dating and relationships and how it affects relationships. So I thought, I don't know, what do you guys think about something like that? Has Instagram ever affected you guys relationship-wise?
100% with me.
Absolutely.
Are you in a relationship?
I am.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think, we're all in relationships, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Are you new in your relationship? We don't know each other,
No,
by the way.
less than a year. So
Okay.
yeah, so we had to put up a lot of boundaries initially, especially with being a content creator too. So it's been interesting, but I've also dated while being a content creator. So I've seen both sides.
So
Okay.
how has that, like, I think that's so interesting, and that's kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on, because when you say content creator, what specifically kind of do you do?
Sure. So OnlyFans. Welcome to Vegas. So yeah, I've been doing OnlyFans for 2.5 years on top of doing my full-time corporate job. So I've been single during that, and in Vegas has been very interesting. And then when I did kind of stumble into a relationship, we did have to navigate that as well.
Are you born and raised here?
No, my gosh.
okay.
No, I'm from Chicago.
Okay.
Yep. So
I feel like Instagram is it's kind of one of those things where you have to put up a lot of rules and a lot of boundaries, because like me being a therapist, it's actually something that is a hot topic in therapy is who's liking whose picture. People will break up over this stuff, or they'll be like, who are you following? And it can get a little like obsessive at times. And they're like, like, do you think that like, and there's like Instagram cheating. I don't even know like the right word to kind of say, but it's kind of like, yeah, because it's like some people will view like, look, cheating is kind of just like a betrayal in the relationship, right? But it's kind of relative to who the couple is and what the standards and what the boundaries are between the couple. So like the couple is the one that defines the betrayal, not necessarily like
society.
exactly, right? So like I'll have people, like, here's something that kind of came up like last week. I had a couple that I was working with, and they had a past infidelity, okay? And so they're working on like rebuilding trust. And one of the things that they're doing is to create transparency in their communication. And Instagram was one of the big ones, because the avenue for cheating happened on Instagram. Okay. So that was the window into the access, I guess you could say. So it's something that she's really hyper vigilant about, right? And so he recently liked a lot of this girl's photos, and she addressed it with him, and she was like, I don't like that you're doing this. I think you need to, I want you to stop doing this. We're supposed to be working on rebuilding trust. And he said no.
What is his reason?
Well, he said that they're just friends. And let me also throw this in there. He has had a sexual past with her.
Okay, so they're not just friends.
That's how I feel about it,
I
right?
know bullshit. Anyone that you've had like a past with,
That's not your friend name. I mean, you've crossed that boundary, or you've crossed that line at some point in your life, and you will always in some way see that person that way. Whether or not it's, I mean, in a way, right?
I don't think so. So I agree with you. Like, I think that he should not be like commenting or liking, especially if there were cases of infidelity in the past. But I will be honest and say, my ex and I, we were together for 3 years. We had kind of a traumatic experience. So I don't know if this is maybe what connects us. So we were together during like Route 91. So we kind of shared that.
Yeah.
So my new relationship, I was upfront from the get-go, and I'm like, look, I don't follow any of my exes. I'm not really in contact with them, but this one I am, and this is why. So you can take with it as you please, but we do have a relationship.
Sure.
So that door is kind of open for communication.
Absolutely.
But for anything else, it's a no-go.
But context, right?
But-
because in your, your client's situation, there was infidelity. There, it started with Instagram.
Right.
But, I don't necessarily think following an ex maybe is...
So to touch back on what you said,
Sure.
I will say him and I have been broke up for 3 years. And since then, he has, and this is before I was even in a relationship, he has stayed with me here, like slept at my house,
Sure.
and I've slept at his house
Sure.
in Miami. Nothing has happened. So that,
Absolutely.
So looking at him in that way is so far removed.
Sure.
However, if I don't think I could date somebody that still had slept at their exes and had a relationship with them.
Context.
I think it's
So-
such a hard thing to navigate, which is why I think this conversation is so important, because Instagram really is like a beast. And I think it causes a lot of relationship issues. And it's kind of this thing that like nobody's really kind of talking about it. Nobody's saying like, I don't want you like liking this person's picture. And then if let's say like when girls try to set boundaries about things like that, what you'll hear is you're just jealous or you're insecure. I hear that a lot from girls trying to set Instagram boundaries, I guess. And that's a common response that I hear from a lot of guys. What do you guys think about that?
I think absolutely not. So that's something like when I start dating someone, I'm like, are they following hot girls? Like,
Is that like the first thing that you look for? Like,
It's
like
not the
new,
first
like new,
thing,
like
but
when
it
you're doing
means-
recon on somebody.
it means
kinda?
something to me
Yes.
because I don't follow like a bunch of hot guy accounts.
Right.
So the people that I follow are technically people that I know personally. So to me, I think it's a red flag if I start talking to a guy and he's dating like a bunch of he's following a bunch of bikini models, and then you're sitting next to your guy and you see their explore page come up. If it's a ton of hot chicks, red flag.
Well, because I think that you can tell a lot of person like we should all put up our feeds right now and see what we're all.
Oh no.
Yeah. I'll
Oh
show
my God,
mine.
that would be
Oh,
like,
no.
I feel like mine is all like puppies and like the weird. Have you guys seen the Instagram page called Cringy?
Oh
No.
yeah. I
Oh
love it.
my
I love
God. I'm I'm obsessed
bad
with that.
TikTok.
I just have really weird shit on my
So good.
Instagram. Yeah. But I think you
So-
can tell a lot of about what sparks a person's interest by like what's on their feed, right? Like what's on their Explorer page. And I think it's one of the things that I pay attention to when I'm like, even just like new friends, even like doesn't even have to be a romantic interest. It's just like, is there an alignment here? Like if you're but I think it's so important for ladies and guys to kind of look at those things. That's not obsessive or controlling. You're just kind of doing some recon.
That's all, yeah.
You know?
I just want to know, and I never put, I don't ever want to change or control anyone.
Exactly.
So I'm just
Absolutely.
looking, and if I see that, then I just know that we're probably not going to be on the same page.
Exactly. But with that, playing devil's advocate, so I agree with that. And I think that that's like, I think that's how you should kind of approach it. But I think that if you really do meet somebody that sparks your interest and say they have all that crazy shit going on, I think address it first and see how they respond. Because
Okay,
look, because like a guy that is not that into you, okay, and this is kind of cycling back to the example that I gave in the beginning, that's a guy that's not really that into her. That's how I feel about that, because I like a guy that's really into you doesn't have any qualms about making those changes.
100%,
They
I
really
agree.
don't. So for me, and that was not even a door that I was going to open here. It's just kind of something that you're just kind of like, wow, like when a guy really wants to keep you and he's working on rebuilding the trust, and let's just say he's in the doghouse, he works even 10 times harder to get out of that and to build trust. But the fact that he's willing to hold on to that and risk losing you says a lot about his interest in you. It says a lot about his investment in you. And I think you have to, like, Instagram is a great tool to kind of be like, weed that out. You know what I mean? Like how important is this to you, where like your feed or this person that you don't even have a real relationship with, or they're far away, is actually like, you know, how much does it really matter to you? What are you willing to risk?
Right.
Sure. And I think the big thing is communication here, right? Especially at the beginning of your relationship, having those conversations. And I'm sure it's hard because a lot of people are going out and casually dating initially. So when do you have that conversation? And when do you say, hey, these are my boundaries, without sounding as a female
Yeah.
as
That's so true, because that's a really good point, because you don't want to come on too strong, right? You don't want to be like, you don't want to be that, you don't want to be that girl that's like, I need you to unfollow all these people.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that you need to do that right away, actually, because I don't think it's really, I kind of like your approach of just being an observer initially, but once the relationship hits a certain marker, you like, what is that marker where it's okay to like start addressing some of these things? Like, when is it okay to start having that?
I feel like a few months in, if you know this is something that you want to pursue long term, then after kind of observing their behavior, then you kind of figure out what aligns with you and what doesn't. And then those are the things that you kind of have a conversation about.
Mm-hmm. I don't think the big conversations are the things that really scare away the right people.
I agree.
I think that the sooner, like, I don't think that you want to go in with, you need to unfollow all these people, da, 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 da. I think that also if a person's really interested in you, that kind of naturally will subside or become less important, and then you can start kind of bringing things up. There's like a natural evolution to these things too. So you don't always have to go so hard. Do you think guys struggle with the same thing, or do you think this is more of like a girl thing?
I don't know. I feel like any of the Instagram, the work that I did to make sure I unfollowed anyone that I'd slept with or anyone that I had.
So you did do that?
So I did, yes, but not because we had a conversation. I think it was just one of those purging moments to say, hey, I'm really happy in the life I'm in and in the relationship I'm in. Why am I surrounding myself, virtually with these people who are no longer really in my life anymore, right? So I've cut them off, and I've had these conversations with them if they have approached me, and I mean, why am I following them? So it wasn't a conversation that either of us really had to have.
That's kind of what I'm saying, right? Like, you did that naturally without any kind of a conversation, and that's because your interest is high.
I respect that.
Yeah, when your interest is real, but guys will do the same thing. It's just girls don't read it that way. Like, a lot of people are just in the wrong relationships. Let's just be honest. You're dealing with people that really aren't that into you. And because you're dealing with people that really aren't that into you, these things will promenade. These things will rise to the top, right? And then when you recognize them, you need to address them. And if that person isn't responding, like, there's your answer. Like, that's information for you. Like, like a lot of people will just wait and hope for the change. I think that people don't have to be perfect, but you should be able to see progress. You should be able to see somebody actively making steps to change, to make you feel safe for a woman. Like, when a guy really cares about you, that matters to him. How you feel, your safety matters to him. He's trying to create security for you. Like, this relationship thing over here that I was saying earlier, there's no attempt to create safety for her. Not, at least nothing that will inconvenience him. That says a lot about the relationship and a lot about him.
Yeah, I think effort matches effort. Just down the line, right? If a woman sees that a man is putting in the effort, she's going to do the same thing and match that.
I think if they really like them, yeah. But a lot of like ideally, these are how things should play out. But they don't play out that way because people are dating for the wrong reasons. I think a lot of people are just in the wrong relationships. I think women pick out a place of scarcity and fear, and time is a big one. Women make a lot of really dumb decisions because of time. They feel like they're running out of time, and they're like, well, this looks good, and this is it right now, and then they get into the wrong relationship. Or, like, men can date for like convenience, or this is the best I'm gonna get kind of thing, and or sexual attraction. They'll pick from that place and ignore some other things, right? It doesn't have A, B, C, D, but I want to bang her, so I'm picking her,
I think that people behave the way that, like, look, she has already allowed this, so why is he going to change? Why would he change? She hasn't really put any boundaries in place, so he's still going to behave the way that he knows, or like what he can get away with. So until she creates like a hard boundary, why would he change?
Well, the thing is that that's what she's trying to do, right? Like, she's literally saying, hey, don't do this. The trouble is that she set the boundary, and this is where people miss the mark. She set the boundary, he didn't do anything, and there's zero consequence, and that's where people mess up. She's setting boundaries, okay? But there's absolutely no consequence for the boundary. So what she's actually teaching him is treat me however you want. That's what she's teaching him.
Well, what can a consequence be? Because when I hear consequence, I don't relate it to a relationship because I'm a parent, so I relate it to parent-child.
Yeah.
Like, how do you give your man a consequence?
Well, I guess consequence,
Like, what would an example of that be? Like,
well, the example isn't anything that you impose on them. The example of that, the consequence is, like, a consequence is just, you choose the behavior, you choose the consequence. Okay? So if you're choosing to disrespect me, if you're choosing to like girls on Instagram, if you're choosing to make me not feel safe, the consequence is you might not be able to have access to me. The consequence is I might not want to deal with you anymore. So I can see what you're saying as far as how it relates to parent-child, because that's often how we use that term. But consequence is just, if you decide to act this way, I'm going to decide what that means for me. I'm going to decide how I show up to this relationship now. And you know what? You might not have access to me anymore, or I might need this person's number, or I might need to read your DMs, or like, it's different for everybody. But the consequence of him not unfollowing her or him not liking the photos, there needs to be something, because if there isn't anything, what you are teaching that person is what I say doesn't matter, and that is dangerous for any relationship. It says if she wants to go on and set more boundaries, right? Like, let's say like they're trying to really work on their relationship and do whatever, and she's like, hey, I have a problem with this over here. He no longer, that her decisions, her feelings, the things that she say, it no longer holds any weight, because there's zero consequence.
and she's created this.
She has created it. You know, I had a totally off topic slightly, but slightly connected. I had a mom come into my office one time, and she was like, you know, my son, he was like 17, right? And he wouldn't go to school, wouldn't make his bed, wouldn't do anything, right? And she was like, how do I get him to make his bed? How do I get him to do da 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 da? And I was like, well, what happens when he doesn't? She's like, nothing. And I was like, well, then why the fuck would he? Exactly.
Why would he do it?
I was like, why on earth would he? I was like, you feed him, you make his bed when he doesn't. There's zero consequences for him going to school. He has access to his car, and he gets to hang out with his friends and smoke weed all day. I mean, he's got it made, Mom, you know? So like so you kind of have to look at like, and I like natural consequences. That's one of the things that I do with kids if I'm working with kids, and I'll do it in other relationships as well. But natural consequences, it's not something that I'm really imposing on you. It's, oh, you decide to do this? Well, then I'm going to respond this way.
Okay. So what would you suggest for someone like your client who's in that situation where maybe she puts up these boundaries and she says, hey, you need to unfollow these people, or you need to stop liking this person's whatever. What, I guess, consequence, or what do you suggest that she does to try and make the relationship stronger and make him understand that she means business?
So that's a great question. I'll tell you exactly what to do. The problem is, she doesn't need to make him understand. He understands. What she needs to do is pay attention to his answer. His lack of action is the answer. But the trouble is that so many women get that and they ignore it. What women will do is they will work harder and they will double down and they will invest more, trying to get the men to understand. And really what you're trying to do is get him to change his behavior. He understands, ladies. He understands that you don't like that. He understands it's fucked up, okay? What you need to do is pay attention to that and be like, oh, I don't like that he's not doing this. I don't like that. What does that mean for me? Stop trying to control them. They're giving you an answer. If they're giving you an answer, what do you want to do about that? That's information for you.
I'm not tolerating it.
I wouldn't tolerate it either.
So what does
I'm out.
not tolerate? So are you leaving the relationship?
I am, because
Okay.
if I have asked, first of all, it should be a non-issue. So if someone's like, if someone's not faithful, the chances of me giving them another chance is probably slim to none, because I value myself.
Exactly.
So if I'm not going to behave that way, I'm not going to tolerate the behavior back at me. So maybe I would give like an option, but not an ultimatum. Like, I'm like, okay, when you behave this way, it makes like I feel not safe, or it makes me feel a little insecure because of X, Y, and Z. But not tell him what he has to do. If he continues the behavior, what it tells me is that he's not really that into me and he doesn't value our relationship. So I'm going to go somewhere else where I'm getting what I'm giving. So I just think, like Jamie said, he pretty much answered the question. Like, she knows, sure. But I think it's almost like an issue of her not valuing her. And why is he going to value her if she can't even value herself?
Yeah, that's a great point.
So
I think, you know, like, you have to really kind of, like, these issues are so much deeper than that. Like, he's giving you information. He's telling you something. What's happening with you where you're actually willing to tolerate that? You're actually willing, like, here's the trade. I'm willing to not feel safe. I'm willing to wonder. Like, that's the trade you want to make? Like, because I don't want to make that trade. Like, I don't know how you function in a relationship without that, you know? Like, you really can't. You're going to drive yourself crazy, you know? And this is why I'm saying, like, you're trying to make things work and you're really just probably in the wrong relationship.
I agree.
Yeah. Do you guys think that people can, like, I met with Chris, was it last week when we filmed an episode on cheating? And he gave me a question for you too. Oh, so I was like, I'm gonna ask her. But do you guys think that people can come back from cheating? Like in the relationship, like that there's been a betrayal. Can you work through that? Would that be okay?
100%.
Okay.
And I would always say that was my one non-negotiable. If you cheat on me, donezo.
So what changed?
We had kids together. We had a family. So I had 10, 11 years vested. And I truly believe in my heart that I didn't think that he would cheat on me again. So I feel like he did learn his lesson and he made a mistake. So if I would have stayed with him, I'm probably 99% sure that I don't think that he would have cheated again. So then it was another issue.
Did he have to do things to, like, rebuild your trust after that?
Yes and no. I think when we forgive cheating, you cannot pound it in the pavement with them. No. You cannot, if you say, I forgive you, I want to move forward, you cannot make them pay the price for years and years and years. So it's, clearly, whoever's cheated on, they're the ones that are in control, and they're the ones that decide if they want to move forward. And if you do decide you want to move forward, yes, they have some price to pay, but it's not forever. Don't torture them, let them go. So, and if they're choosing to stay in that relationship, clearly they want to work, because there's the door. Like, no one's making you stay. So clearly it's a conversation.
I think that's such a good point. You know, there's a point where it shifts. I always hear this, that, like, there's the ownership when there's been cheating is on two people, and I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that there are things that can contribute to it, but I don't think the ownership is the same. I think the ownership and the responsibility and the burden is different. It's balanced different. When you have, let's say you have a person that cheated. I agree with you. You can't pound it into the pavement, like you said. You have to be, if you're going to be in it, you're going to have to release it. You're not going to be able to bring it up every time, because if you do, now that there will be a shift that will eventually take place where if that relationship doesn't work, it's not like they can be doing everything, but let's say they want to go out one night, right? And they're doing everything that they can, and you're like, you fucking, and they're 5 minutes late texting you back, you fucking cheater, I knew you're like a da 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 da. You know, and it's just like, that will be the thing that will poison the relationship. It won't be the cheating that breaks it up. That won't be the thing that destroys it. It'll be the negativity. It will be the negative energy. And it will be the lack of healing the victim has that will be the thing that will destroy the marriage. So anytime that there's cheating, that's why healing is so important.
Because they're creating or making it the foundation of their relationship at that point.
How much time do you think that takes?
Oof. Man, it's different for everybody, but I will say this, like, if it's been a year and you're still there, you should really reevaluate.
If you're still having a hard time getting past it after a year?
Not that you won't have triggers.
Right.
Not that you won't have these things that kind of surge at sometimes and have moments of hardness, but it can't be the norm. It can't be that. You can have one-offs after a year. But if you have that hypervigilance, if you're always aware, if you're looking at their Instagram all the time, if they can't have friends outside of your relationship, if you feel like you're isolating yourself or them, like these kinds of things, if you're in that state, it's probably not going to work. There's a real lack of healing there, and that will absolutely be the cause and the breakdown of the relationship. And I think the first year after cheating is rough. I think it's rough, but I think that it is. I think in relationships, betrayal is bound to happen. It's bound to happen, whether
at some point, in some way, shape, or form.
And I think girls give a lot of really bad advice when it comes to cheating. Because if you go talk to your girlfriends, right? If you talk to your girlfriends, you're like, this motherfucker cheated on me.
Leave him.
Leave
him.
That's
Get out.
The first thing
you can
they
do
say.
Better.
That's the first thing that they say, right? And I'm like, that's terrible advice.
That's interesting because I never say that. There's so many other things that play a part.
But you're probably not the norm, though, when it comes to, like, I think your insight is probably more elevated than maybe the norm of what you get in, like, the girl group, the girl talk. That is not, that's any time, like, I would say the norm is that when you're hurt, you go to your girlfriends, and the first thing they do is they're like, bitch, leave him, find somebody else. Those are like the first things the first three things that you hear.
Yeah.
And they're like, just get over him, let's go out tonight, fuck him, and then you engage in some toxic shit, and then you end up developing attachments, and you got a whole other, and that it always just makes it worse, right? Like, and they're saying that not necessarily from a position of, they're trying to care for the most part. They're trying to care, but it's really bad advice, because in every relationship, if we just leave the first person that hurts us, if that's how we choose to approach relationships, where we're just like, you hurt me, fuck off, good luck having any relationship.
Absolutely.
You're not going to have it. So we have to be able to learn how to work through these things that cause us distress. Now, that doesn't mean, okay, that you need to entertain bad behavior, because I don't believe in entertaining it. I believe in addressing it. And then you watch and you see what they do, and that's where everybody messes up. They're like, well, they're not changing. I'm like, well, there's your answer.
Right.
Let's
Interesting.
see. I kind of wanted to talk to you just a little bit about, like, how, because I know I'm gonna put you in the hot spot. No. So I think doing OnlyFans, like, that it's so popular and it's so prevalent nowadays, right? But, like, has that had positive or negative effects? Have you had, like, a bit of, like, how do you navigate that? Like, and like jealousy too. Like, I wonder, does that ever play a part? Is that something that?
I feel like you're so uncomfortable right now.
I am. Like, oh no.
Well, you know what? Okay, look, if it's too close to home, we'll switch. Because I did. In all fairness, I told her that I would not.
No, you're.
Well, I want to know.
No.
So I hope you do answer.
I will dig into it. No. So when I was dating, it was always a hot topic, right? Because I don't hide it. I'm never gonna hide who I am and what I do.
And I love that. I love that. I love that you're so, like, you own your femininity, you own your sexuality, and you're so bold about it and unforgiving, and I love that.
Yeah, and I knew going into dating, because I had been single for about 3 years before I met my boyfriend now, and I knew going into dating, if that was something that I went into, which I did, that it would have to be something that a man was secure enough about himself to be okay with. And it was never my thought that I would have my partner be a part of it. It was just something that I did to supplement my income for my corporate job, like I feel like a lot of people do. So when I was dating, I would have, kind of mixed things. I was dating someone, when I first moved out here in Vegas, who I met at the gym. And
was this who we were talking about earlier?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Who, would always say that they were okay with it, but still had kind of bits of jealousy about it. And then
he was pretty controlling, though. He was very controlling and like stalker vibes.
It was
like next level.
He was an interesting man. Let's say that. I was with him during his prep, and that was a strange time in my life too. And I, needed a lot of healing I needed to do myself. But it was, he was jealous. And then it's interesting how a lot of men kind of flip the switch, where he said, hey, but I'll be a part of it with you. So I think we made like one video together. It wasn't really anything that was, really that good. So I didn't sell it. And then
you just have it for blackmail now.
Yeah, right? I'm like, well, here we are.
I want to know what makes it good.
Yeah.
Lighting.
Okay.
100% the lighting. So and then he kind of backpedaled a little bit. And, we ended up not working out, which is for the best. He was not the right person for me. But, going into dating, generally speaking, I did have to say, hey, this is something I do. And most of them would follow my Instagram, and then they would overtly sexualize me. And, I'm from the Midwest, so I do kind of still have those Midwest values. And, I'd been through the wedding, I'm divorced, and, I wasn't going into it with time or anything else. I just knew I had to find the right person who was okay with me holistically. So, it wasn't until my partner that we had these conversations, and he knew we were friends. We were in the same friend group, so he had an idea of obviously what I did, and, we set those boundaries early on, and not who I could talk to, but what constitutes crossing a line for us. So for me, it's especially with Instagram or OnlyFans or Reddit or Twitter or any other social media, was if it is for work, if it is flirting for work, then it's okay. If it's me flirting or sending videos or doing anything outside of that, then we're crossing a line.
But how do you distinguish between the two? Because you could always say, hey, it was for work.
Yeah, I think generally speaking, it's almost always for work if I am, but most men who I know in real life know my boundaries. I am very open about who I'm with, that I'm in a relationship, and that I'm not going to cross that line with them. So it's something that I'm setting, and I think most people should set, right? If you're in a relationship, to say, hey, I'm happy in a relationship. And I allude to the fact that I am in any video, because now he is a part of it. So bless him.
So he is in the videos with you.
He is in the videos with me. So he is.
Was he doing that before? Or did you kind of introduce him to that?
No, I introduced him.
I wonder, how did that conversation go? Where you're just so.
He is, love him. He's a very secure man. And he was, interested in doing it or open to doing it, kind of generally speaking. He's proud of himself. And, I don't know, we just had the conversation one day, and he said, hey, well, I can help you. I'll be in the videos with you, because I'd never really done videos with someone except for that one time, and I didn't sell it because of the lighting. That's all. Maybe more. But
not much more. Just kidding. We were just going on with the puns right now.
Sorry. So we just kind of started doing it, and he's great at lighting, and he's really funny about it. He'll be like, well, I think that maybe we should do a blowjob video today. I'm like, well, do ya? Okay. Just because he wants one. That's it. So, but no, we just, we set those boundaries early on, and he doesn't promote them. He is a faceless man in all of it, so it's not like he has women in his DMs, or I'm sure he has women in his DMs.
Would he ever be okay with you doing something with another guy?
No.
Okay.
No.
So that's kind of like one of those boundaries, right? Mm-hmm. It's okay with him, but it's not okay with anybody else. That would feel like a betrayal.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not Lena the Plug and Adam 22 over here. So...
Yeah. I think it's got to be really tough to kind of navigate some of those things, but you guys have seemed to have kind of done it pretty effortlessly, and I think a big reason why is because of your communication and being really transparent and upfront with how you are. A lot of there's a lot of argument that talk about traditional women, right? And I actually think that you're incredibly traditional. I think you have a lot of these traditional skill sets, but because you do OnlyFans, what we'll hear a lot of the red pill community say is, well, you're not traditional, and
the 304s.
Yeah, the 304, and they'll speak really derogatory about women that do that. What would you say to them?
I don't know. You're right. I am very traditional. I love to
because I know you outside of this, and she's she cooks. I cook. I clean. You have that I mean this in the best way, but you have that mama energy. You know what I mean? That very nurturing, very warm, loving energy.
Yeah, and I like to take care of the people that I'm in a relationship with. So I do have a lot of those traditional values. while also, I guess it's hard.
Do you have children?
No.
Do you want to have kids?
No.
Okay. Because I would say to someone that did want to have children, I don't know if I could say you're very traditional.
True.
To someone that, and that's just my opinion. Like if you plan to bring children into the world at some point, like that's not going away. That's there. That's going to affect them whether you want to admit it or not. Everything we do affects our kids.
Yeah.
So
what do we think, like has traditional, like has that changed, like how we're kind of defining it now? Or like, do we think it's like, because it's like, like I have, like, is traditional just
Define traditional.
Yeah.
that's true. It's very subjective.
That's kind of like, I
So-
feel like we almost need like a conversation even about that, because people can kind of be all over the place. Because I might look at Jess and be like, well, I know that you do a lot of very traditional feminine roles, but you do this one thing that is outside of that. Does that one thing no longer make you a traditional woman? I don't necessarily think it does, right? Like I can't have a moment of behaving badly and be like, well, she's an asshole. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it's so sometimes, like I think sometimes the way we look at these things is black or white, good or bad. You know, and it's just like there's fluid. So yes, like I hear what you're saying as far as that part isn't traditional, right? But you do all these other things that are. So does that like now make you not a traditional woman? Role wise,
that's a great question, and I struggle with that in a lot of aspects of
Yeah.
life, like altogether, because I tend to be a very black or white person.
Sure.
But sometimes there's gray areas, just like I talked about in the beginning. With me still being in contact with my ex. He's not like the other exes, and like I said, we share that
There's
traumatic
like gray.
experience. But as you said, over time, I think that's going to dwindle off. So
These are really like good conversations, and I think we're all kind of figuring it out, because I'm not really sure either, which is why like you're just kind of, I'm asking questions, because I hear what you're saying, and I'm like, I'm not really sure. Like, but I don't think that we can cancel things out. And when I hear these arguments, one of the biggest things that I have a problem with that they do is they'll set it up in a way that it's either this or it's that. And it's like, no, it's not. Like, no relationship actually works that way at all. You're setting up an unrealistic expectation and unrealistic terms, and then you're saying, choose this or this. If you're not this, then you're this. And it's like, no, I'm not. I'm not any of that. Right?
Yeah, you're
like
just Jamie at this point.
Exactly.
Right? You're just
but,
Jamie at this point.
Right. They're just doing it for the sake of like an argument, you know?
I agree.
What would you like? There's this whole other thing about like preference that I hear people talking about, and they're like, well, I'm not trying to be controlling, right? We can use the argument that we were saying with like women in the Instagram, like it's my preference that he doesn't do this, When I hear people in the red pill community talk about, well, I want a woman that has a low body count, I want a woman that doesn't maybe go out, I want a woman that stays home, cooks and cleans, and that's my preference. Some of their behavior I don't think is actually preference. I think it's actually very controlling. What would you guys say to things like that?
Well, I'm not a fan of the red pill community, but I do feel like I fit a lot of like those standards. So I do enjoy staying home. I cook, I clean. My body count is low, but I don't identify with a lot of the things that they push and talk about on their show. And I feel like with talking about like a low body count, since that's always been like important to me, like I seek that in a partner. So I'm not trying to date a man that has, hoed around and been with like a ton of women. So like I value myself and who I share myself with and my energy. So I'm not going to align with someone that is, sleeping around. So
I wonder how many men actually, I guess the red pill community does care about what your body count is, but
I would say like most people,
they
don't really care to go back.
Yeah, and we don't talk about it anymore, I think, as much. I think maybe 10 years ago.
I do.
Yeah, well, you do, absolutely. But, I feel like during my single times that we didn't really talk about, the body count or...
I don't know. I honestly don't know anybody outside of them that asks, what's your body count?
I think
I've never had that happen
my
before.
partner and I did maybe like 2 months ago, just for fun.
I've never had anybody ask me what my body count is, ever.
Really?
Never. No. No, I think that's really gross, actually, too, to even ask somebody that. I think it's really invasive. Like,
I asked my guy.
and you know what? Like, and I honestly,
Yeah.
like, and I don't want to know either. I don't want, I actually
Yeah.
don't want to know. Like, do not tell me. I don't want to know. I don't want that information in my mind. Like, and if you've slept with somebody, don't fucking tell me. I don't want to know.
Wow. Okay,
I really
so
don't.
we're
Really?
complete opposite.
Yeah, I don't wanna
I'm
know.
like, do not take me to an event and let there be a woman there that you
Well-
have been with and I not know. I
Well,
don't want to be
that's-
the one in the room that does not know.
Okay, so that I agree with
Yep.
you on. I do, like, if it's a situation, I guess context is important, right? If it's a situation like that, fuck yeah, I want to know.
Okay.
I 100%
Because with
want
my
to know.
luck, I'll be over there shooting the shit with her and be like,
Hey, girl. Yeah.
guess who I'm going out with tonight?
I agree. I think in a
So-
situation like that, I would want to know, like,
And I do the same. If I walk into a room, which is going to be hardly ever, and there's someone there that I have a past with, I'm going to let them know right away.
Agreed.
Hey, just so you know, like him and I have history. And then you do with as you please. And if they have any questions, I have no problem sharing.
Yeah.
I think outside of that, I'm not interested. Anything
Yeah.
that happened before me, I am not interested. I
before
do
you.
not care. I really don't care. It doesn't matter to me, and I don't want to know because I know the way my mind will work. And I don't want to think about it. So I just completely erase it so I don't have access to
That's
it.
so funny. I'm the opposite in that sense too. I want to know about their past. I think it's so, for me, it's like important. Clearly, like an ex is an ex for a reason. So typically I'm not intimidated by any exes, but I learn from their past and the relationships and what happened. And so like when he describes like, oh, she was extremely like miserable and grumpy. Like, what does that mean? What does that look like? What was she doing? How was she behaving?
those are way better questions to ask, and I like that you did that because sometimes like maybe she wasn't. Right?
Right.
And you're not going to get to that unless you ask that type of question.
Yeah.
Because he'll have to come up.
That's what I want to know.
Yes, and I think
Like,
that's
how do I know you weren't just being a dick?
Exactly. Like, what if she set a boundary you didn't like, and now she's a bitch, right? And that's what you
and
hear
she's
back.
grumpy and miserable and
exactly.
yada yada.
Exactly. So I think that those are really good questions to ask. You know, like this whole date. Like, do you guys think that dating in Vegas when you guys were single? Do you think that like it's harder here, or do you think it's like the same across?
No, it's harder here.
You think so?
It's harder here, and I will tell you why I think it is.
Okay.
Is because Las Vegas is a transient town, right? There's a lot of the shiny thing is happening by the strip kind of constantly. So, you know, and I could say that for Chicago too, but it's more so here because of the mentality that, at least because I've only dated men here, that men have when they come into this town. It's, we're going to let loose, we're going to have fun, we're going to whatever. I think that still kind of carries to the men who live here, and they get to see women who also have the same mentality coming into this town, that they can have the fun fling, they can have the fun quick things, and not have repercussions. Or, you know, they go home to, you know, Connecticut or wherever they're from. So yeah, that's what I always had a hard time with, was men who actually wanted to be emotionally available and not just look for kind of the
Do you
sparkly
think that
thing.
guys will kind of lead with that and then flip it on you? Like I've had clients, you know, talk to me about the frustration of dating apps. And they're like, you know, like they seemed really interested. They say all the things until that attachment is secured, and then they're like, oh, this is just happening too fast. I don't want anything serious. When in the beginning they're like, yeah, I want kids. I'm looking for something long term. But as soon as there seems to be like a sexual element that's introduced to it, what I will hear is there tends to be a shift in the seriousness of the relationship, or there's like a backing off. Would you guys agree or disagree? Well, I guess nobody's really kind of on the dating apps right now.
No, not now.
I've never been on dating apps.
No?
for you.
I've never used it.
You're
I've
really
had-
lucky.
I had
Good for you.
You're not
gosh.
missing a thing.
I had Raya,
Okay.
but I never like used it. So I still have the app on here. I need to delete it, but
Yeah.
yeah. but I never like used any of the other dating apps. And I disagree. I think dating here is way better than anywhere else in the world.
You think so? Why?
I think so, being born and raised here, only because after visiting like a lot of other places, like first of all, I will say Vegas, like we have the hottest of the hot. So there's so many beautiful women. Yep. We have gorgeous guys.
But does that make it harder because like the competition's so steep?
No, because I think we go anywhere else and you're like, what the heck? So I would rather have this than be stuck in a small town where I'm like, this is it.
This is my options.
This is all I have to pick from. Like everyone's like marrying everyone that you've known from like kindergarten. And so I love that it's like transit. And then I love that there are so many options. So I feel like when you do like pick your person, I almost feel lucky.
I feel like this is a small town, though. I guess
everyone like it depends like where you're dating. Like I wouldn't date in the industry, so but I mean, yeah, I don't know.
I think
I can't see myself dating in the industry.
I stayed away from that.
I just feel like they have so much. What's the word? I don't want to say like opportunity, but it's almost like an analogy I like to say, you don't bring an alcoholic to a bar. So there's a lot of temptation. So I think that living here and having a relationship is harder than any other place in the world because we are a 24-hour town. So there's constant temptation. So you get in a fight at 2 a.m, guess what? Your guy can go to a strip club, a nightclub, everything's open. But if you're in frickin' Utah, in Jordan, Utah, St. George, things are closed. Where are they gonna go? To the park? So to where here, you know, there's just so many options, and the temptation is a lot more. And that's the thing really with cheating that I will say with like most men. I think that most men want to be good men, but if you're dating someone that's constantly putting themselves in tempting positions, they may get away with it for a while, but at some point they're going to buckle, I think. I think 99% of men, if presented with the opportunity, will take it. But the other 1%, probably not presented with the opportunity.
I know that I know the red pill kind of talks about like there's only like 1% of men that are actually like being intimate or having like sexual partners or something like that. It would like the number was like outrageously low for men that are actually like sexually like intimate. And it's only like the top 1% that have like options, like you said. But in a town like Vegas, I feel like you're going to see more of the top 1% here, which is why I think dating here is a little tougher.
It is. It is tougher. But I love the options.
I guess it works both ways, right? But yeah, like, you know, I think like dating's hard enough, period, whether you're in Jordan, Utah or here. But because of the 24-hour access, because of the beauty here as well, I think that analogy you gave is really perfect as far as like, you know, you can, if you're in that position, it will increase the risk.
Right.
And not everybody is going to respond, but it does create some added challenges that maybe people in Utah or Tennessee might not have to deal with. And so those are just conversations and challenges that are extra here. Right. You know, doing like having this kind of lifestyle. It's just something that most people in relationships aren't going to have to deal with.
Right. And look, let's face it, I'm not a cheater. I haven't cheated on my partners, but I know better than to put myself in those situations. Like, I'm going to come home when I'm done going out. Like, I'm not going to engage with, if I think that someone's attractive, I'm not going to continue to engage with them because it's just a matter of time. So why do that?
If you respect your relationship, I feel like you're not going to put yourself in those situations, and you would hope that your partner would do the same thing.
I feel like when you I think most people do that. I think the trouble is that we don't get the reputation of doing that because people really aren't that into each other. You know, like you're together, but you're really not that into your person. Like,
and why did they stay together?
A lot of reasons, actually. Like, I'll tell you what, girls here pick for money a lot of times. Okay. Like
Yeah.
a lot of, like, they do. They're picking for security. There's a lot of money out here in Vegas. And so you'll see a girl with a guy and you'll just be like, that's a weird looking couple, right? Like, I'm not saying that this is always the case because there's always exceptions to the rule.
Right.
Okay. But a lot of these people really aren't that into each other. I know, I'm a therapist. I talk to a lot of them. Okay. Like, I really do. So I do get like, and that's a whole other thing too that I was going to kind of maybe ask you guys about too, is like what we portray on social media and how it looks, right? Like, everybody's in these happy relationships. You'll see couples that present this image of just happiness, or I'm okay. And is it really that way? Like, does that fuck with your psyche about like, am I on the right path? Am I missing the mark? Like, I just think that all that stuff can just kind of, again, be a little bit of like a mind fuck. Going off on a tangent now. What was I saying? Don't even remember.
The facade of Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, there's that. But like, a lot of people are just in the wrong relationships. And I think, you know, if people are together for convenience a lot of time, or it makes the most sense, or they're doing this. Good guy, not right guy. Good woman, not right woman. And they're picking from that place because they don't feel like there's anything better. It makes sense for them to be in this relationship. I want to be a mom. I want to have kids. I'm running out of time. This guy's great, and he's financially secure, and it's awesome. And some of this stuff does coincide a little bit with what Red Pill will say about women. So they're not completely off there. But when you really love somebody, when there's actual love, none of those things actually matter. All the rules are broken, and none of those things make any sense. Because when you really, really love somebody, it changes your level of attraction. The things that you thought would be deal breakers aren't, because love is the thing that changes the game.
I think finances is important though, Jamie.
Well, look,
especially at this point in time.
Well,
for
so do
me.
I.
Like, I want to date someone that's like financially responsible.
Well, that's okay, but like, that's totally fine, and you know, so do I. Okay, but here's the difference though. You're not dependent on it. Okay, what you want is somebody that's financially secure and stable. That's great. I do too. I don't want to date somebody that doesn't know how to manage their money.
But in my 20s, it didn't matter much.
That's okay. That's okay. But like, a lot of, again, different life experiences, different resources now as well. Your power is also different now as well. Like, women that have, look, I don't think that you should date somebody that's not financially sound. I don't. I think you need to have your shit together to be a good partner, okay? And that doesn't mean you need to be rich, but I think I kind of go back to, you need to know how to manage money, and you need to know how to make money and be resourceful.
Yes.
Those things are really important. So it's not necessarily about, am I dating a rich person? It's like, do you have these traits, okay? Because you could be rich and broke.
Right.
You can, so I look at it kind of that way, you know? And but not everybody is in, so like, it's important. These things are important, and money isn't bad. But if you're picking because you need to feel safe financially, that's not a good place to pick from. And I see a lot of women do that out here. It's like, well, this person's going to come along and I don't ever have to work again.
Well, you should, for them, they should take care of themselves first. You know, it becomes something within yourself and the work that you have to do to be able to be ready to be in a relationship. Because no man, I feel, wants to, I mean, they like pretending to play savior, but is it really something that you want in your life partner?
What about dating on potential?
So I always say,
he doesn't have a job, but you know that he has the potential to be very successful.
So I always say, like, you don't date potential, you date what is. Okay. You don't, because a lot of women will do that. They'll idealize relationships and they'll be like, well, I see this, this, and this. And you know what? They're not necessarily wrong. Like, I think it's great that women can see that in relationships and be like, that guy has all these beautiful things, and if he just did this, great. But like, a lot of guys and girls do the same thing. Don't ever reach their potential. And then guess what? You've just wasted your time. You have wasted your time. I absolutely believe in wasting time.
Oh, okay.
You know?
You do?
100%, yes. Okay. Absolutely. I have definitely wasted time.
Okay. Because I think it's more along the lines of lessons.
So I agree that they're lessons. Well,
so I don't know if it's necessarily a waste of time, or is it a lesson learned? Unless you continue to repeat it.
It's 100% a waste of time, in my opinion. Yeah. I wish I could get back some of that time I wasted.
Okay.
Now, did I benefit from it? Absolutely, I benefited from it, but I still wasted time. And because I wasted time, it influences some of the decisions that I make now, because I really did waste time.
So you learned a lesson.
I did learn a lesson, but I wasted time learning that lesson.
Okay. I like it.
Maybe you should have cut it
She
off.
wasted time learning the lesson.
It's true.
If you wouldn't have wasted the time, would you have learned the lesson? Probably not.
No, I would have absolutely learned the lesson.
Okay.
Yes, I would
so
have.
you should have just made the choice sooner.
You know what? I knew better already.
Okay.
I knew better already, but I did some shit where I was like, let me just give this a shot. Let me just do this. I did that stuff, wasted time.
Okay.
You know?
So you ignored your intuition.
I 100% ignore my intuition. God literally was like knocking on my door saying, don't do this. And I was like, I'm doing it.
We know inside. Yeah.
I was like, you're wrong, God. No. Just but yeah, what was I gonna, we're kind of like close to time right now. I don't know. Do you guys have any kind of like things that you feel like we should touch on before we wrap up, or should we have like a final question? What do you guys think?
Well, okay, wait. So did we really answer the question?
What?
With regards to Instagram,
yes,
and guys following, let's say, hot chicks and liking their photos, is it a no-go? Is it a red flag?
I think it's maybe a red flag initially, but something you need to communicate, like we said, leading into an exclusive relationship and what your boundaries are. So,
and if a girl doesn't care one way or the other, what does that say about her?
Yeah, like I think it is a red flag. Okay, I really do, because but it doesn't have to be a deal breaker. Let me just say that.
Yes.
red flag, not deal
So
breaker.
I think it's really important to make that distinction. Yes, it is a red flag, but I don't think that I think we're taught really poorly to run from the red flags. And I think what you really need to do is start having conversations about what you're seeing, because I can literally make anything a red flag. I can make anything in my life a red flag if I want to. Okay.
Okay.
God,
I love red.
So I think what we need to do is if something really is bothering you, start having a conversation about it instead of making an assumption, because people will do one of two things. They will address it and correct it, or they won't. That's really the information that you need to know, because look, we all have things. We're not coming into this completely whole, a lot of us, right? We all have painful experiences, things that we've gone through that have caused us pain, and we can project that onto our partner. And if we communicate, a lot of those things can actually be worked out if it's the right person. A lot of these things can really just kind of go away, and there might be a little bit of a learning curve, but at least they're willing to go through that with you. And if you just run every time you see a red flag, you're not going to find love that way either.
Yeah, you're running forever.
Exactly. And you're just going to be really tired and lonely.
What makes people stay in it, like the longevity?
Like bad relationships?
I hear a lot of people say, I'm tired. And I'm like, there's always going to be something. Like, you've been together for 10 years. What the hell do you expect?
I think that's that's a great question, because I think a lot of people want to give up when things get really hard, right? At the same time, I don't think relationships take a lot of work either. The right ones.
Yeah.
I think a lot of
And they're always fun in the beginning, right?
Most of them really are, but
Yeah.
I think I look at my grandparents, and I think I have such a cool perspective on this, because they were in their 90s and they were still playing hide and go seek.
Oh, I love
They
that.
they did. They honestly, they did. They
Oh,
were
my
hide. They
heart.
would hide, and they would do little things like hide the jellies from each other, and
The jellies?
So
Like
it was
jelly
it's a
beans?
Sicilian thing. I just
I'm
can't
thinking
even. I
like,
just
jelly like on your Eggo.
So I know it really is like it really. I should share the story. Marmalade jelly. It was a whole thing in my household with them. And I don't know why we started this, but we did. I loved marmalade jelly. And we got Nani and Nano, is grandma and grandpa and Sicilian. And we got in the habit, Nani and I, of hiding the jelly from Nano. And it wasn't until I got way older that I realized that he always knew where the jelly was, okay? But he always acted like he didn't. He'd go around the whole house looking for the jelly, you know? They just had that kind of playful relationship where she would dance in the living room to Frank Sinatra, and he would come up behind her and hug her. When I look at that, it wasn't that they didn't have hardships, but that love was easy. They never worked for it. And she had an arranged marriage before she met him, and he took on her, he took on her 2 children,
wow.
okay, which was very taboo in our culture. You don't do that, right? She was like, a broken woman, you know, as like Red Pill would have like iced her out a long time ago, right?
Right.
But he came along and said, and she was like, you can't, she thought that she was not good enough. She was like, you can't marry me. I have 2 kids. And he said, I'll raise them. You know, and he had that cut. So you see that kind of, and I saw it until their dying day. Like I saw, till death do you part. I got to see that firsthand. They didn't part till death, and it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen, you know, tragic but beautiful. And I was like, so when I look at love, okay, and I look at relationships, I'm comparing it to that.
Oh, wow.
I'm comparing it to that because I know what real love is. That was real. And that's not something, that is something that stands the test of time. That's something that withstands challenges, because they had plenty of challenges, okay? But it was easy. They were so easy with each other. There was such a trust and such a love. And so you kind of have to kind of balance it out that way. A lot of people are like, relationships are work, and they are, but it's easy too.
Right.
It should be.
Well, do you think we answered the questions, Jamie? Do you think we got it? Okay. Jess, do you think we got it?
I hope so.
Okay, guys. Well, we're going to wrap up for today. I know we kind of bounced around a little bit today, but I'm still getting my feet wet. I can't talk. Whatever. I'm still trying to figure out this whole podcast thing, guys. So just bear with me. But thank you guys so much. Thank you to my beautiful guests. This was great having some girl talk with you guys, and I appreciate just how open and vulnerable you both are, and your insights are very valuable. Amber, thank you so much. We'll catch you next time on Pink Pill, guys.
I think you're doing great.
You are.